Welcome back to the Life of Buddha series. In episode 15, we heard about the most important event in the life of Buddha, the night he attained enlightenment under the Bodhi tree. This was the end of his 6-year journey of searching for the truth. That night, Siddhārtha spent 3 watches of the night, successively attaining the knowledge of past lives, the knowledge of the divine I, and the knowledge of the cessation of asavas. First watch, he remembers his countless past lives and understands the law of reincarnation. Second watch, he saw the birth and death of living beings according to karma, clearly understanding the law of cause and effect. Third watch, he penetrates the 4 noble truths, eliminates all afflictions, and attains complete enlightenment. As dawn broke, Siddhārtha became a fully enlightened Buddha. The surrounding landscape seemed to join in this joy, with flowers blooming and a wonderful light covering everything. The Buddha attained enlightenment by his own efforts, without relying on any teacher. He did not invent a new path, but discovered an ancient path that had been hidden by time. This affirms that he is the fully enlightened one, the perfectly enlightened one. Episode 16, 7 weeks after enlightenment, 49 days after becoming a Buddha. The profound and wonderful Dharma that had just been attained still needed to be contemplated. So Buddha Gautama did not go anywhere in a hurry. He still needed to review all of his knowledge. This was the time when he enjoyed transcendental happiness and also systematized and detailed the inner treasure that he had just discovered. The first week at the Bodhi tree, Buddha Gautama focused on his breathing, and a moment later, he gently entered the 4th meditation. Leaving the 4th meditation, he ascended to the 4 levels of formless meditation. Leaving neither perception nor non-perception, 2 moments later, he entered the cessation of perception and feeling meditation, calming his feelings and perceptions to rest, recuperate in the realm of nirvana, enjoying transcendental happiness, vimuddhisukha. 7 days passed, but time passed in the blink of an eye. Buddha Gautama left the cessation of perception and feeling meditation, descended to neither perception nor non-perception, descended to nothingness. Then returned to the 1st meditation, ascended to the 4th meditation, descended to access meditation to reflect and review the doctrine of dependent origination. This is a subtle, profound teaching that needs to be explored comprehensively and thoroughly. This teaching is very new, going against the ancient tradition from the source of the Vedic scriptures. So if one wants to propagate it to the world so that it is easy to see, easy to know, easy to convince, one must clearly understand every single moment of thought, consciousness, state, which creates that complex flow of dependent origination. Impermanence, non-self, and dukkha also arise from here, are recognized, and are experienced. Thus, in the clear, quiet, and transparent clarity, the Buddha Gautama clearly saw each link intertwined, supporting each other, dissolving into each other, and the past, present, and future seem to have no separation, no gaps. Depending on ignorance, action arises. Depending on action, consciousness arises. Depending on consciousness, name and form arise. Depending on name and form, the 6 sense bases arise. Depending on the 6 sense bases, contact arises. Depending on contact, feelings arise. Depending on feelings, craving arises. Depending on craving, grasping arises. Depending on grasping, existences arise. Then birth, then aging, then death, then sorrow, lamentation, pain, and despair dominate all sentient beings. The cycle of samsara is thus established. Wanting to end that entangled and inexorable cycle of rebirth, he found it. Just untie one link and they will break, especially the link of ignorance. End ignorance, then action ceases. End action, then consciousness ceases. End consciousness, then name and form cannot arise. Without name and form, there will be no 6 sense bases. With the cessation of the 6 sense bases, where does contact come into contact? Without contact, how can there be craving? Without craving, feeling ceases. Without feeling, there is no grasping. Without grasping, there is no existence. Without existence, there is no birth. With the cessation of birth, old age, sickness, death, and the whole mass of suffering, sorrow, lamentation, pain, grief, and despair will cease. Wanting to understand it more clearly, he observed the forward and reverse directions of that cycle of dependent origination many times. There was no place that did not appear clearly and transparently. When this cause exists, this effect exists. When there is the arising of this cause, this effect arises. When this cause does not exist, this effect cannot exist. If this cause ceases, this effect ceases. On the last night of that first week, the Buddha Gautama uttered a verse of inspiration like a song of triumph. It is indeed so. The truth has clearly appeared before my profound wisdom eye. All doubts and darkness have been revealed and cleared away. I have found the cause of the entire mass of suffering, and I have destroyed it without leaving any remnant. The second week, when the sun had just risen, Buddha Gautama left his meditation, walked about 20 palm lengths away toward the northeast, and stood looking at the tree of gratitude that had sheltered him from the dew and the sun all this time. He knew that he would soon leave, saying goodbye to this unintentional friend. A blade of grass, a leaf here had existed with him, had spoken of endless life with him, let alone the Bodhi tree, this tree of wisdom, which was his friend, the witness to his complete and ultimate enlightenment. Then, Buddha Gautama stood staring and motionless at the Bodhiruka tree, without changing his dignity. 7 times of sunshine, 7 times of dew, 7 times the sun rose and set, 7 times the moon rose and set. He did not blink, continuously nurturing moments of calm and peaceful mind. He wanted to leave the world a lesson in gratitude. During the third week, for half a month, seeing the Buddha Gautama wandering around the Bodhi tree, some devas doubted whether he had truly attained enlightenment or not. And what was the enlightenment of a fully enlightened one that was praised and admired by many powerful devas? Seeing this intention, the Buddha Gautama used his supernatural powers to create a path of jewels, Ratana Kamkamana, in the middle of the sky, from where he stood to the Bodhi tree, and then walked back and forth on it for 7 days. Not only that, he also used another type of supernatural power to convey the thoughts to those devas that he also had 9 unsurpassed qualities, 10 perfect powers of wisdom, 4 superlative fearlessnesses, 4 powers of protection and harmlessness, 4 unobstructed eloquence, 4 immeasurable minds toward living beings, the supreme 30 paramitas, the 6 supernatural powers, 8 knowledges, 15 practices, and much more. Having understood, known, and seen, the number of devas were filled with joy and endless praise. Manjushri flowers fluttered in the air. On the 4th week, the Buddha Gautama used his supernatural powers to build a jeweled pavilion, Radhanagara, in the northwest, symbolizing the pavilion of the Dharma, and then he sat there, contemplating and illuminating the states of birth and death of mind moments. The mind streams passing through the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. The mind streams of the desire realm, the form realm, the formless realm, and the transcendental world. The evolution and operation of name and form from coarse to subtle. Wherever his wisdom shone, he saw clearly. He only needed to direct his mind, and he could clearly see the mind streams of ants, flies, birds, wild animals, blind people, deaf people, hungry ghosts, devas, earthly immortals, and asuras. Oh, it is truly wonderful and profound, and I am afraid that even if it were explained, no one would know, no one would see, no one would believe. The name and form phenomena arise and die so quickly. In just one moment, there are 3 small moments of birth, existence, and death. Even in a single material dharma, there are some that are as subtle as space. Yet they themselves, those seemingly invisible mysteries, are the cause, the condition, the complex interrelationship that creates the world, humanity, sentient beings, the limitless flows, the forests of suffering, the seas of tears. So for 7 days, Buddha Gautama outlined the layout, content, and details of the entire Abhidhamma Pitaka. Then, he envisioned that in the future, the edifice of the Dharma must take the 4 foundations of mindfulness as its foundation. The 4 sturdy pillars are the 4 divine powers. The walls must be erected to block unwholesome dharmas, which are the Vinaya. The rafters, beams, rafters, and other supporting details are the Sutta Pitaka. The Abhidhamma is the roof. While the wisdom penetrated deep into the mind to see the subtleties and intricacies of causal and causal relations, later the Patana, the essence of the Abhidhamma, both the body and mind of the Buddha Gautama became clear and pure, radiating a halo of 6 colors, namely blue, nila, yellow, pita, lohita, white, odata, orange, magenta, and a mixture of the 5 colors to form a 6th color, pabhasara. On the 5th week, the Buddha Gautama walked to the east of the Bodhi tree, sat in meditation under the shade of the Ajapalanagroda tree, enjoying the bliss of non-action and liberation. On the last day, suddenly a Hukum Kajaka Brahmin passed by, stopped and asked, "Hey monk, you have worked so hard to practice, but do you know, from what perspective can we become a saint?" In other words, what are the conditions and causes to become a saint? The Buddha Gautama replied with a verse. Abandoning all evil and sinful things, free from pride, hukumka, purified of all defilements, subdued and controlled by the six senses, well-versed in the Dhamma and the truth, living the holy life, he is called a saint. He is free from greed, anger, negligence, and afflictions wherever he may be in this world. The content of the Dharma talk seemed to read his mind, so the Brahmin was so scared that he ran away. Then there was another incident. The three daughters of the Mara king, Tanha, greed, Arati, jealousy, and Raga, lust, used every means to seduce the Buddha Gautama, but failed. The story is, after leading the heavenly soldiers and generals back in defeat, the Devil King was sad. Siddhārtha Gautama had won, which meant that the Devil King's fame, reputation, and power would decline from now on. Seeing the Devil King sighing and groaning, not caring about the ultimate pleasures of the five senses in the heavenly realm, the three daughters asked him the whole story. After understanding clearly, they burst out laughing in unison, saying, "In this world, no one can escape the power of women. A man's heart, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much he seems to control himself, will still fall before the charming beauty, the charming voice, the charming feminine scent. Father, please entrust that task to us." Although the Demon King no longer had much faith, thinking of the five ultimate desires in the three pleasure palaces, the prince was not infatuated, but had no other plan, so he had to nod in agreement. Then the three celestial maidens, who already had wonderful beauty, jade-like figures, ivory figures, peach-like silk, and lotus-like eyes, suddenly transformed into three beautiful queens worthy of wearing the crown of the three world's beauty queens, leading a troupe of female singers, musicians, dancers, and the ultimate musical instruments. In the blink of an eye, they were fluttering around the Ajapalanagrotta tree. Then the melodious zithers, flutes, and trumpets rose and fell. The enchanting, captivating, passionate, and intoxicating singing and lyrics, praising love and physical desire, all came together like gentle, poisoned flower arrows, shooting straight into the heart of the Buddha Gautama. Not yet finished, in harmony with the music were soft, graceful, flowing, and airy dances, the thin silk dresses like clouds fluttering, revealing the seductive, natural islands. However, the Buddha Gautama remained calm, composed, pure, and unmoved. Seeing that the celestial nymphs were not moved by this extraordinary man, the three daughters winked at each other and took action. They used their supernatural powers to transform each scene, each memory, each stage of the passionate love and affection between the prince and Yasodhara in the past. From the clothes, color, skin color, hair, face, figure, voice, eyes, lotus feet, and hand buds, all were exactly like Princess Yasodhara. And the three passages, the three scenes, were the three Yasodharas of the past. At the beauty pageant, the martial arts competition, and the honeymoon. There were also the butterfly bee voices, the pillow talk, whispering like pouring sugar and honey into the ears. Oh, how passionate and stirring was the scent of flowers, the scent of clothes, the scent of skin, the scent of hair, the scent of memories, the scent of a whole youthful life, fresh like a torrential rain of love pouring down on the mind, evoking sweet memories to seduce the Buddha Gautama. Oh, how terrifying is the invincible power of heavenly beauty, sound, and scent. However, just like a gentle breeze rustling through the leaves, the surface of his mind was not stirred up at all, unable to disturb the profound moments of great concentration. The Buddha Gautama opened his eyes, smiled like a blue lotus, and said to the female demons, "The Tathagata has conquered, overcome, and liberated all of the countless beautiful forms, lovely sounds, and delightful flavors. There is no power in the three worlds that can command, or seduce the Tathagata anymore. The ultimate magic trick that you have just transformed, displayed, and performed, the sexual instinct, cannot conquer the Tathagata. Behind them are bitterness, sourness, acridity, thorns, blood, filth, poison, tears, hatred, hell, and hungry ghosts. Living beings are rushing, panicking, and constantly jumping into your devilish, cunning net. You have been tied up by you for countless eons. Come on, you should disappear." Return to the darkness of ignorance and endless, insatiable desires of you, of your devil king. The Buddha Gautama's words of truth had incomparable power. Miraculously, the female demons immediately disappeared into the darkness, returning the scene to peace, clear sky, and bright clouds. The birds around the forest suddenly began to chirp and chirp. Some young deer, not knowing where they came from, lay quietly nearby, looking at him with their round, black, flickering eyes with infinite affection and trust. On the 6th week, the Buddha Gautama walked to the east of the Ajapalanagroda tree, meditated under the shade of the Mukalinda tree to contemplate the joy of the transcendental world. Suddenly, a strange wind blew, getting stronger and stronger. Dark clouds gathered, thunder and lightning appeared. Then a torrential rain darkened the sky and the earth, covering the mountains and forests. There was a very large dragon living in a deep lake nearby. Every night, seeing the strange six-colored halo of the Buddha Gautama, curiously and surprised, he came to see it. After observing for a while, the dragon thought to himself, "Who is this person with such a majestic, beautiful, noble, and extremely noble appearance? Surely he is not a human. So is he a god, a deva, a Brahma?" Buddha Gautama knew the dragon's thoughts, used his supernatural powers, and in just a few thoughts sent information to the dragon, letting him know that he was a Buddha, had eradicated all suffering and afflictions, was beyond the 3 realms, and was currently always attended by the gods and soldiers of the 4 great heavenly kings. Ketu Maharaj. Overjoyed and happy, the dragon thought to himself, "This is my rare blessing. I must use my supernatural powers to protect him during this time of heavy rain and strong winds." Thinking this, the dragon wrapped itself around Buddha Gautama's golden body 7 times, transforming into 7 heads like 7 great parasols, covering him, not allowing any raindrops to invade or fall diagonally on his robes. The rain was truly terrifying and persistent, lasting almost a week before it stopped. After the sky cleared, the clouds dispersed, and the wind calmed. The dragon untied itself, transformed into a young man, respectfully bowing to him with all 5 limbs. The Buddha Gautama praised the dragon's virtues, then spoke a verse. "Having heard and seen the truth, living contentedly and in seclusion is happiness. Knowing self-restraint and having a good heart towards all living beings is happiness. Not being attached and transcending ordinary desires is happiness. Breaking ego clinging and ego love is ultimate happiness." On the 7th week, the Buddha Gautama walked to the right side of the Mukalinda tree, sat under the shade of the Rajayatana tree, and entered into the cessation of perception and feeling. So for 49 days, the Buddha Gautama did not eat. He maintained his life and health thanks to the miraculous golden tray of 49 slices of milk and rice, made from palm fruits from Sujata, the daughter of the millionaire Senani. Although his body was thin, his complexion was still radiant. His spirit was still full because he was nourished by the joy of meditation, the joy of fruition, the joy of liberation. During this time, the Buddha Gautama contemplated and reviewed all the teachings that he had sought and realized. They were complete, perfect, and perfect in the beginning, middle, and end. In the human world, it is like that, but in the seemingly invisible world, the gods and Brahma still follow him, especially those who have deep roots in good dharma, those who have created paramitas with him in many distant past lives. The most enthusiastic, passionate, and faithful are the 4 great heavenly kings and the king of heaven, Saka. In the quiet space, they protect him very closely, strictly and thoughtfully. Therefore, when he saw Buddha Gautama leave meditation after fasting for 49 days, the god Saka transformed into a cowherd, happened to pass by, sang a song, then offered him a handful of ripe golden kanna fruit, telling the monk to eat it to his heart's content. Buddha Gautama smiled and accepted it. He knew that it was Saka, and he also knew that in those kanna fruits, he had sincerely and carefully filled them with exquisite and wonderful food of the heavens to make an offering. He said, "Tathagata blesses you. The more good dharma you sow, the more abundant and fragrant the fruit will be in the future. Tathagata and you will have many more opportunities to meet." The next day, 2 merchants, named Tapusa and Balaka, they were brothers, with 500 carts of goods, from Ukala on their way to the river Ganga, following the 1,000-mile route back to their homeland, were resting under a tree nearby. There was a diva, who was a relative of those two in their previous life, who thought, the road of commerce, the road of making money and getting rich is their passion. Once rich, they want to be richer. That is a bottomless pit of greed. The tireless accumulation of wealth, silver and gold is the grave of many evil minds of people. The more they accumulate, the more selfish they become, the more they fall into evil deeds. I feel very sorry for them. I want to help them. I must create conditions for them to know how to do good deeds, make offerings, and know how to sow good dharma, especially so in the first-class field of the highest quality. Thinking is doing. The Deva used his divine power to make all 500 chariots, although firmly tied by 500 oxen, suddenly have 1,000 wheels spinning, while the chariots remained in the same place. Strangely, surprisingly, the two merchants and their servants ran to hold the chariots. Still no luck, the wheels still calmly spun. Horrified, scared, pale-faced, they all knelt down and worshipped as if worshipping a star, begging the gods of heaven, earth, and trees to forgive them, to not punish them anymore. At this moment, the Deva appeared with a noble, radiant appearance, standing in the middle of the void, majestic, awe-inspiring, 1,000 times more beautiful than kings of the human world. The Deva said, "I will not harm you two. In the past, you and I were once related by blood. Now, due to a little bit of good fortune from my previous life, I have been born as a small deity. I want to help you two know how to turn back to goodness, return to the good dharma to gain long-term benefits." Having said this, the Deva pointed towards the Rajayatana tree and said, "Not far away, only about a bow's length away, a Buddha, a perfectly enlightened one, has just been born. He is a supreme being that the Devas, the four great heavenly kings, the Lord of the 33 heavens, Brahma, all must revere, respect, and make offerings to. This is truly a rare and fortunate fate for the two of you. Right now, prepare roasted rice cakes and honey to offer to him. For 49 days, he has not eaten, so making offerings at this time will bring blessings and results like a forest, like an ocean." Having said this, the Deva disappeared. The two merchants shuddered and were amazed. A small Deva with such power and good fortune, let alone. With boundless respect and overflowing joy, they brought sattu and madhu cakes to the tree the Deva had pointed out. Seeing the monk with a radiant, majestic yet gentle appearance, like the moon and the sun merging together and shining brightly, both of them knelt down and said, "We have come from afar, thanks to the guidance of a heavenly relative. We respectfully offer you this small amount of food. We hope you will happily and compassionately accept it so that we may gain long-term benefits." Buddha Gautama thought to himself, "Now that I have no bowl, I wonder if the Buddhas of the past ever received food with their bare hands." At that moment, reading his mind, the four great heavenly kings immediately gathered, revealed their true forms, and offered him 4 stone bowls from the heavens. He accepted all 4 bowls, then, using his supernatural powers, merged the 4 into one, and received the roasted flour cakes and honey from the two merchants. After he finished his meal, they offered him water and toothpicks. With a few brief words, Buddha Gautama blessed them and then explained to them what Buddha was, what enlightenment and liberation were, and what the Dharma, that is, the path to escape from suffering, was. Overjoyed, the two merchants knelt down, bowed their heads to the ground, and exclaimed in unison, "Please let us take refuge and sow the seeds of affinity with you, and that Dharma of liberation from suffering." Buddha Gautama smiled. "Yes, you two are the first two in the Tathagata's teaching. Then it would be more correct to say it like this: Buddham saranam gacchami, Dhammam saranam gacchami. I go for refuge to the Buddha. I go for refuge to the Dhamma." The two merchants nodded and read it 3 times. So the two of them became the first disciples of Tathagata in this world. Tapusa and Balika clasped their hands, bowed their heads and said, "We are from far away, foreigners, and this time we come back, not knowing when we will return to Magadha. So please give us something to remember you, to always remember you and the Dharma." Buddha Gautama casually raised his hand to his head, took a few hairs and gave them to the two merchants. There were 8 hairs, and said, "You have a great affinity. A few strands of Tathagata's hair are not simple. Later, when Tathagata enters nirvana, in your country the Dharma of eliminating suffering will flourish for many thousands of years." The two merchants had just walked for a while when Buddha Gautama sat contemplating, and some thoughts arose. I have perfected and fulfilled the precepts and virtues. I have also perfected and fulfilled the worldly concentration and the holy fruition. I have also perfected and fulfilled the wisdom of the three realms and the wisdom beyond the world. I have completely abandoned the dharma of liberation from shallow to deep, from inside to outside, completely and completely, empty, without any attachment. So in this world, is there anyone more supreme that I can approach, learn from, worship, revere, and respect? Then Buddha Gautama directed his mind and brought boundless wisdom to look throughout the three realms, 4 species, and 10 directions of the world. With admiration, he exclaimed, "How lonely! I have looked all over the world, and I do not see anyone in the world of men and gods, of monks, Brahmins, Maras, Devas or Brahmas, who is more virtuous than I am, whom I could approach, learn from, pay homage to, revere, venerate. And I have also looked throughout the world throughout the realms of gods and humans, but have not found any monk, Brahmin, Mara, Deva, or Brahma, who has more concentration, conduct, and store of concentration, samadhikanda, more wisdom, conduct, and store of wisdom, panyakanda, more liberation, conduct, and store of liberation, vimuttikanda, than I, so that I can come to be close to him, learn from him, show him respect, reverence, and veneration." Then the following thought occurred to him. So, is this teaching, this treasure of the Dharma, this treasury of the Dharma, Dhammakanda, supreme, unsurpassed, or should I show respect, worship, and veneration to the teaching that I have just realized? At that time, the Brahma Sahampati, his close friend since the time of the Buddha Kaspa, with the blink of an eye, using his supernatural power, like a strong man stretching out his arm, appeared under the Rajayatana tree, respectfully joined his palms and said, "Indeed, O peerless teacher, Sa Anutaro, the peerless superior beings, the worthy ones, the Sammasambuddhas of the past all showed respect and devotion to this Dhamma. The Arhats and the Samyaksambhuddhas of the future will also respect and revere this Dharma. So, O world-honored one, I beg you, who are also the worthy one, the perfectly enlightened one of the present time, to respect and revere that Dharma." Brahma Sampati further said, "The Samyaksambhuddhas of the past, present, and future have, are, and will help many people to escape suffering. All of them have, are, and will respect the noble Dharma. That is the characteristic, the virtue, the wonderful function of the Buddhas of the 3 times. Therefore, in the future, whoever wants to seek benefits for themselves and with the wish to mature in a noble life, seeking enlightenment and liberation, they must know how to respect that peerless Dharma." Having said this, having made the necessary requests, the Brahma Sahampati circumambulated 3 times to the right around the Buddha Gautama, paid homage, and then disappeared into space. Leaving the Rayatana tree, the Buddha Gautama walked back to the Ajapalanigroda tree, calmed down and sat down. Other thoughts arose. The Dharma that the Tathagata has realized is truly profound, wonderful, silent, sublime, and subtle. It is also beyond the scope of reasoning, speculation, knowledge, and understanding of ordinary people. So it is very difficult to see, difficult to know, difficult to comprehend, except for those who are wise and wise. Furthermore, the world is accustomed to living in love, indulging in the sensual pleasures of the 5 senses, so how can it grasp the principles of causality, dependent origination, which are the core, essential teachings that cannot be left to the shallow, superficial, lazy, negligent, dark, and delusional minds. And nirvana, where all conditioned phenomena cease, where all desires are abandoned, where all cravings, attachments, and bondages are destroyed, is also a matter beyond the competence of ordinary wisdom, and extremely difficult. If the Tathagata were to teach that Dharma, living beings would not be able to comprehend it. What a waste of effort. What a waste of effort. A moment later, the following thoughts arose in him, as a culmination of all his doubts and hesitations. Indeed, Tathagata had to go through great difficulty and hardship to realize this Dharma. But this Dharma is too profound and subtle for those who are still burdened with greed and hatred to understand it thoroughly. Living beings are covered in ignorance and lust. Their minds are covered by dark clouds. So how can they see the light of truth? This Dharma goes against the current of life. so how can it be spread in the world? So I cannot set out to propagate it at this time. Reading the Buddha's mind, Brahma Sahampati feared that if the Buddha decided not to propagate the Dharma, and because living beings did not hear the Dharma of ending suffering, the world would be destroyed. So he appeared once more and made a request. I respectfully request the world-honored one to go forth and preach. I pray that the great compassionate one will beat the drum of the immortal Dharma. If the wonderful Dharma is not proclaimed, the three realms will be set on fire, and the world will perish. There are sentient beings with little dust in their eyes who, if they do not hear the Dharma, will be doomed to fall into samsara and depravity. When the Dharma is preached, those with little dust will easily understand, realize that sublime, unsurpassed truth. Seeing the Buddha still thoughtful and silent, Brahma Sahampati bowed his head respectfully, earnestly. Please, world-honored one, open wide the door to birthlessness and deathlessness. The unsurpassed Dharma preached by a completely pure being, the sublime Dharma expounded by a being of profound wisdom, will defeat hundreds and thousands of heretical theories and frivolous words spouted by heretical teachers and religious leaders throughout the Jambudvipa continent. O great wise one, O fully enlightened one, please allow sentient beings to hear the pure, untainted Dharma that you have realized through countless lifetimes with immeasurable will and practice. You are now standing on the highest peak of that transcendent and splendid castle of Dharma. Please, the one who has escaped suffering, look down on sentient beings who are immersed in the dark night of a long dream, are drowning in the sea of suffering, are being endlessly dragged into the current of misfortune, disaster, disability, blood and tears of the tragic cycle of birth and death. You are the wise man, the sage, the enlightened one. You are also the great victor, the one who is beyond, above, and above all the powers of the devil, who has completely removed all the bonds, all the chains, the nets of desire, of fetters, of afflictions. Please rise up joyfully and travel throughout the world to propagate the Dharma. Please beat the drum of the immortal Dharma. May the world-honored one compassionately spread the nectar of the Dharma rain. The Buddha Gautama slowly and calmly spoke to the wise and generous Deva, understanding that the Dharma is too profound, wonderful, and subtle. It belongs to the category of profound intuition, so it is difficult for sentient beings to grasp it with their reasoning intellect. Furthermore, the Dharma goes against the current of life, against the current of desire, so how can it be preached to the ears and minds of the world when sentient beings inherently consider happiness as the satisfaction of worldly desires? The Tathagata has decided not to propagate it. Seeing that the great enlightened one still maintained his unshaken concentration, Brahma Sahampati bowed his head and invited him a second and third time. Buddha Gautama smiled and thought to himself, the Brahman religion regards Brahma as a supreme being, a creator, a supreme being, invincible. Now, this Brahma, my old friend, has invited him 3 times for the sake of the Dharma, for the sake of living beings, in accordance with the tradition of the Buddhas of the 3 times, making me also moved by the Dharma. Quietly, calmly, using his divine eye to observe the world, Buddha Gautama clearly saw that living beings have many species, many roots, many minds, many different levels. Some living beings have much dust in their eyes. Some living beings have little dust in their eyes. Some are intelligent and bright. Some are stupid and ignorant. This person's nature is good and kind. Another person's character is bad and evil. This type of person is bright and easy to teach. Another type is stubborn and rebellious. There are others, perhaps the best, because they have seen the dangers of greed and anger in the flow of the 5 filth. So they have sought to practice in one way or another, through this belief or that religion. On the contrary, there are many living beings who are filled with ignorance, stupidity, and wrong views, and it is truly impossible for even 1,000,000 suns of truth to shine on their deep, dark minds. It is natural and reasonable, the Buddha continued to think. Look at that lotus pond. How many blue lotuses, red lotuses, white lotuses, yellow lotuses, pink lotuses, purple lotuses lie interspersed, mixed together. Every plant grows from the mud, grows out of the mud, rises above the water surface, and then produces colorful and fragrant flowers. However, there are plants that are still in the mud, hiding in the mud. There are plants that have just come out of the mud, sprouting at the bottom of the lake, living silently at the bottom of the lake. There are plants that are in the water, trying to rise above the water surface to receive the sunlight. There are plants that are already above the water surface, spreading large green leaves, swaying on the water surface, welcoming the sun and dew, then blooming pure, graceful flowers, offering their color and fragrance to the world without a trace of dirt. Having thus contemplated and associated, the Buddha Gautama declared with the voice of a lion king at the dawn of a new era, "The door to the deathless has been opened to all beings. Whoever has ears to hear, eyes to see, and wisdom to understand, please place your complete trust in it." So the Buddha Gautama decided to set out to turn the wheel of Dharma. It was near the end of summer. The rainy season was approaching. On the 5th day of the 6th month, 588, the year of the rooster, before the Western era. Dear ladies and gentlemen, you have just listened to the video about the life of Buddha Shakyamuni, adapted from the work A Life, a Sun and Moon by Master Gioi Duc. This video series will be broadcast at 7 p.m. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on the YouTube channel Buddhist Story. We sincerely thank you for watching. To not miss the next episodes, remember to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you find the content useful, please share this video with your relatives and friends. All your comments are very valuable to us. Please leave comments below the video so we can discuss and share together. Thank you, and see you again in the next episodes of the video series, The Life of Buddha Shakyamuni.